Welcome to Fit and Pain-Free the Bonnie Pruden Way. I'm Enid Whitaker, and I'm joined by Sandy Dirks. Our program each month will center around fitness pioneer Bonnie Pruden and her accomplishments, her method of exercise, and pain erasure the Bonnie Pruden Way, or Bonnie Pruden myotherapy, which is a way to get rid of muscle-related pain. Join us as we begin each meeting with a few tension-relieving exercises.
Welcome to Fit and Pain-Free the Bonnie Pruden Way. This month, Enid and I are going to be discussing all of the books that Bonnie Pruden wrote. Enid.
Oh, Bonnie wrote 15 that we can count, but she wrote many, many manuals and booklets and all kinds of things for all kinds of different purposes, like girls' clubs and campfire girls. And as you can see behind Sandy, there are several little booklet pamphlets for bowling and for executives that she did for equitable life. The first one that she actually did was, I guess you'd call it a booklet, which is the one you can see behind Sandy, which says Basic Exercises #1. And she did that because she was teaching kids. She was also going into schools, and they needed a booklet to go from to do the exercises. So that's the first one that she did. I think it's like 36 pages. So it's not really actually a book. But Bonnie talked to her books, and she shared her books. She shared herself with us through her books. And that's basically all of her books. She shared herself with us, with her. And going back to her philosophy, her books weren't just about exercise or how to fix this or how to fix that as far as headaches or back. It was a whole philosophy. And I think that started with do no harm. And she wrote a lot of little medical papers when she was in high school. And when she read the Hippocratic Oath and it said do no harm, she decided that that was going to be one of her philosophies, do no harm. And that not just do no harm physically, but do no harm ever in any way. Then her father always taught her there was always a way to do it. And she decided that she wasn't going to wait around for other people to do things, that if she saw something that needed to be done, she was going to do it. She was going to make things happen. And then the third one was what's in a name. And she decided that her name was going to stand for honesty and truthfulness. And so those three things really colored the way she wrote her books. People would say that they felt like she was talking to them. And I think that was the reason, because she was actually sharing herself with the reader. So the first actual book she wrote was Is Your Child Really Fit?, which is in answer to Eisenhower's program and her introduction to Eisenhower about the fit or the unfitness of the nation. So that was her first book. And then from there on, she went to write 14 other books. And when I was looking at everything, I was thinking she wrote 15 books and she did it in 30 years. So that was a book every 2 years. And considering all the other things that she was doing at the time, going out and speaking to wives and every everything that you can think of, as far as different groups and different peoples, and writing the pamphlets also, and teaching classes, that's a heavy load. Um, I was with her, or I knew her when she was writing the Exersex book and the Baby Swim book. And I was actually with her when she wrote the last three books, Pain Erasure, Myotherapy, and the After 50 fitness books. Um, and the way we did that was, because it was so busy at the Institute in Stockbridge, we would go to Florida. And the Pain Erasure book was written in Florida at a little motel. And Bonnie, I don't know how she knew the people that owned it, Ginny that owned it, but that's where we went. And we went there in November, just before Thanksgiving. And we came back 3 months later with a book. And Bonnie would sit at the typewriter and the table, whatever was available, and type all day long until the people next door in the motel went out to play shuffleboard. At that point, we had our very, very dry beef Rita Martini straight up with a twist, and played scrunch. And then the next day it would start all over again. Whenever she got up, she'd start typing until three months later, the book was done and we took it to New York to the publisher. Then the myotherapy book was written in a different little motel, but it was the same thing. But in that one, the table was too high, so we put the chair on medical books to bring it up so that Bonnie could type. And she typed with two fingers, but they were fast. The only breaks we got was when I reminded her we had to eat and take a walk. And then the After 50 book was written at a friend's house, Joan Wilworth's house in Florida. She was in New Hampshire, and she loaned us her home. So that's where that one was written. Same thing, 3 months, we were done. I don't know how she managed to do the other books because she was so busy at the time. But that's how the books got done that I know about.
Well, and that was just the beginning of the writing of the books, right? Because then the editor would go over it. And then the editor, she would send it to an editor. The editor would go over the book.
Yeah.
But then Bonnie was thoroughly involved with the photography of each book.
Yeah, that was another thing. If you look at Bonnie's books, they are different. The pictures in the books are different than most exercise books. And it's because all the shots were taken in action. In other words, they weren't posed. You did the action, and the photographer had to be good enough to click at the right time to get that action. And that was a whole other part of getting things done, because often photographers are, if they're any good, they have egos. And we had to look past that in order to get the job done. And it was a matter of mapping everything out, taking time ahead of time to decide what photos had to be taken. And Bonnie would draw a little sketch, and then we'd take pictures with, what were those ones the instant photos that you took? I can't remember.
Polaroids. Yeah, the Polaroid.
Polaroids of the shot.
Yeah.
And then we'd assign different staff members different poses. So if you planned ahead of time, everything went smoothly, which was crucial because it had to be done in a certain amount of time.
Yes, and I just remember, well, actually, when you look through her books, she was the subject in many of them, the beginning books, How to Keep Slender and Fit After 30, all of those. But then I don't know how she chose the models in her early books, but the later books, the Kellys were in. She had the neighborhood kids. Before that, Lori and her relatives were in the books. Lori Drummond, the first Bonnie Pruden myotherapist, and from when they were little kids. And then
Right. Yeah.
later on, Susan and her kids. Yeah, it was interesting. She always used local talent.
Well, the birth to six book,
Yeah.
the baby in that book was the one that was in the Sports Illustrated book, in Sports
Okay.
Illustrated magazine, with
Okay.
the original Fitness from Cradle
Right.
article. And so that was that baby that was chosen for that particular book.
Okay.
The photographer for all three of the children's books was the same, Suzanne Sass, and Bonnie redid those books in 1985 to include the myotherapy for each particular age group. And Suzanne did those photographs too. I wanted to read one thing that came to me from, um, came on the website actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Someone had asked me about a particular muscle problem, and I answered the question. And then the message came to me, do you want to hear my Bonnie story? And I said, yeah. And so this is from Adam. I won't give his last name, but this is what he wrote. The year was 1980 or 85. I was strolling through New York is Book Country, a yearly event in Manhattan. A section of Fifth Avenue was closed to cars. Publishers set up booths up and down the avenue. It was one of those perfect September days with a blue sky and a touch of coolness. Bonnie Pruden was in a booth promoting a book she just published on trigger points. People would come up and sit in front of her, and she'd press a device into their body that looked like the top of a wine bottle. As I watched her from a distance, listening to her voice and watching how she moved, I took her to be a woman in her 40s or 50s. But when it was my turn to sit and she started to press into my trigger points, I noticed the wrinkles on her arms and neck and realized she must be at least 70. I was astonished because she sounded and moved like a much younger woman. As she worked on me and discussed her book, I got one impression of her. She didn't try to sell me on anything. All she cared about was helping people. Her intention was pure. Just thinking about her now, I'm inspired. And I couldn't have said it better. I've never that's really that's really her story.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, it is.
um, and when because Bonnie kept diaries, I looked in the diaries to find out if this was in there, the book country thing. And it was. And it
Oh,
wasn't, it was in 1985, and she was promoting the myotherapy book then. And 2 days later, we were in DC, and Bonnie was testifying before the Senate on health, education, and welfare about the plight of the kids in this country. So, and she had written in her diary, Sunday, the 22nd, September 85, New York is book country. Valentine had a booth at the book show. It was all Mayo, Beanie, that's me, folded and gave out 1,700 brochures and news releases. I fixed people all day. But I, her intention was only helping people. And although her books have all the equipment in them, she gave she gave the instructions, she gave the equipment instructions, because she wanted everybody to feel better. And that was the whole intention of all of her books.
Yes, that was her life. That was
Yeah.
her life. I mean, when you read everything that she wrote, you know, it was not only the 15 books, but the 6 exercise records. She had the Bonnie Pruden show. She had her own TV show. She did countless interviews. She talked to people all the time about how they could improve their lives. And it wasn't just through physical fitness. I mean, she talked about very difficult subjects. You know, she talked about suicide. She talked about PTSD. She talked about all kinds of things. I remember her in one of her books. She talks about Rachel Carson, and you know, talks about nutrition. So it was everything in her life was about helping others, and how they could do it themselves. It wasn't come to me, I'm the guru and the expert on everything. It was like, I've got some tips for how you can help your own life.
Yeah.
She gave freely of herself.
She did.
Yes. Yes. So, and like you said, well, and you guys also did a lot of book tours. I don't know with her early books, but the publishers would send her out on the road. And she did countless, like I said, TV interviews, radio interviews, and she always would talk people through how to help themselves. People would call in, or an audience member would say, I have this problem, can you help me? And instead of just saying, well, go buy my book, she'd say, come on, let's see what we can do.
Well, the first people that would get after her once she was on the show, if she came back, were the cameramen.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
In those days, they carried the cameras on their shoulders and they were heavy.
Yep.
So, yeah, the cameramen were always after her.
I'll bet. And her books are still being published today. So you can still find them on the Bonnie Pruden website. You can still find them on Amazon. So, you know, I think Pain Erasure was published in 79 or 80.
Yep.
It's still being published today.
And it's in an ebook too.
That's right. So yes, her wisdom is still readily available. All you have to do is pick a book.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. That's right. Okay. A lot of wisdom in that little body. So all of the books are still not all of the books, but many of them are still available today on either the Bonnie Pruden website, Amazon.com. There's also the organization, I'm sorry, but I'm blanking on what we called it. Educational Institute also has a website, and there are things on that website as well.
And 2 of Bonnie's books were bestsellers, the After 30 book and the Pain Erasure book.
Right, are both available. So, and Enid, you know, we're keeping her philosophy alive and going. So I thank you for that.
It's fun being with you.
It's fun. I agree. Thank you, Enid. Anything else you'd like to say about this?
I said it all.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see y'all next month.
So you begin by bringing your knee up to your chest as far as it would go and helping it with your hand, and then stretching it out and putting it down in front of the other leg. And if you were doing this and you were kind of achy or tired back, you just lie on your bed and do 4 repetitions. You don't have to do a million of them. Mm-hmm. You just have to do 4, but you do them often throughout the day. And if you have music on, then you can do them to a rhythm. After you've done 4 of those, then you lie prone with your heels out, which relaxes everything. Then you tighten your seat, tighten your abdominals, and then relax. Tighten your seat, abdominals, and relax. And again, just 4 repetitions: seat, abdominals, and relax. And one more, seat, abdominals, and relax. And then you would turn on the other side and do the side lying exercise before turning onto your back. On your back, with your knees bent, you just press your back to the floor, pull your abdominals in, and then arch, and then relax. Press back, tighten your abdominals, and arch, and relax. Press back, tighten your abdominals, and arch, and relax. And one more. Press back, tighten your abdominals, and arch, and relax. Yep, the next one requires that you be a little more coordinated. You're going to bring your knee to your nose, which means you have to lift your head up. Then straighten your leg out, put your head down, and then back to the original position. And then you would do alternating side for each time. And then usually your achy or tired back would feel much better.
And as Bonnie says, keep fit, be happy.